Hello ladies and gentlemen, Willie here. I usually don't get too involved in Twitch or Reddit drama stuff because I know a lot of people purposefully want to distance themselves from all of that when they come onto YouTube, so consider this a bit of a one-off. The reason that I'm doing it is because that it's creating some real different opinions out there, and that's content that I'm very much interested in covering. Here is a real TLDR of the situation. A live streamer on a PvP server is summoned outside of Blackwing Lair by the Orb. Upon phasing in, an enemy player resurrects and dispels some of their world buffs. The streamer asks a game master who is in their Twitch chat whether this is griefing, to which the GM replies yes. The GM then asks for the player's name, and the player, in case who has dispelled the streamer's world buffs, is banned within a few minutes on all of their accounts. So there is a lot to unpack here, like a lot. First of all, you know what? I quite like the idea that GMs would hang out in Twitch chats and talk with the players, you know, get to know their customers, what bothers them, what issues they may have and so on. Twitch staff do it, and whilst Twitch, let's say, doesn't have the most transparency or consistency around bans, as in none at all, the staff are still permitted to interact with people who are also their customers essentially in one way or another. I'd be amazed to see Blizzard not have sent an email out to all GMs saying you aren't allowed to publicly acknowledge yourself as a GM in pretty much any capacity any longer. In this instance, what the GM did was pretty far out of field. Now, when I first heard about this and saw the posts, there were so many with just fire the GM, ban the player, this is unacceptable, much like the way in which the Dispeller himself had been banned. No investigation, no chance to defend himself. People said, I've heard enough and seen enough, get them gone. It's pure cancel culture at it again. You would think after recent happenings in and around the WoW scene, people may be a little more sensitive to read into things a bit more, but nope. First offense, capital punishment for all involved is the only answer. Not to defend any party involved here, I mean the pure vitriol you see towards streamers from certain websites is huge. If a streamer's ever part of a drama, it is magnified so much, as well as being reposted on Twitter, the livestream fail Reddit, Discords with little context other than to get people riled up. But in this case, a lot went wrong here, okay? A lot. I personally don't see an issue with GMs hanging out in chats and talking to people. It's when they pretty much ignore any due course they have in their job and take actions like this. First of all, the instant reply that dispelling can be griefing is wrong. Notes can be griefing, not is griefing. Secondly, if this were allegedly the case, a report should have been submitted against the Dispeller to be reviewed by normal means. Thirdly, the GM should not have requested their name on stream. Finally, the fact that the Dispeller was insta-banned blows my mind. This is a severe abuse of the power on the Game Master's part. Up to this bit, everything may have just been water under the bridge, if nothing came out of the complaint in the end. But the Dispeller was banned on all of his accounts. Imagine how your regular player appealing a false ban or somebody reporting bots feels when they see action taken within minutes, when they have been waiting weeks. There is allegations that the GM may have been fired at this point, and given how this is all blown up, the only real actions Blizzard have are retrain or fire, though I can hardly be cheering for somebody losing their livelihood in our current world situation, especially over something in a game which can be fully overturned. And indeed it was, because the person who dispelled wasn't banned for a time before getting themselves banned again for spamming some macro whilst they dispel people. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. So I don't think there's much in the way of discussions that the GM acted wrong here regardless. Yet there's also been some points brought up about dispels again. We're seeing players rally behind a person who chooses to spend their time in the enemy capital, resurrecting and dispelling boss from players, then dying, then running back, and doing it again and again and again. I mean, I see it on my server too for sure. I bet if you're on a PvP server, you do too. It's become part of the game, whatever you may think of it. So what's Blizzard official take on Dispels then? Well, interestingly enough, there is a Blizzard in-game code of conduct, which applies to their titles in general, and then one for Classic specifically for PvP harassment, which are kind of at odds with each other really. Let me show you the in-game code of conduct first. It says behaviour that intentionally detracts from others' enjoyment, such as griefing, throwing, feeding and so on, is unacceptable. Does dispelling detract from others' enjoyment of the game? Yeah, absolutely, I would say. The code of conduct also states violating these rules can result in suspension or account termination. So what about Blizzard's PvP harassment documentation, updated 1 week ago noticeably? Well, for Classic it states, if you choose to create your character on a PvP realm, Game Masters will not address situations where you're repeatedly killed by the opposing faction. This includes situations that may be considered dishonourable, such as corpse camping or killing players well below your level. Is dispelling considered dishonourable? Yes, it is, I would say. So you're more or less exempt from griefing on a PvP server is Blizzard's take for Classic. Well, honestly, I didn't expect that to be the case. In fact, I was quite surprised when I first read this. I believe that if you were subject to targeted and continuous harassment, that action could be taken against the player in question. I mean, for this case, against the streamer here, there's a chance that it was targeted. Even then, from what I have read, the Dispeller was a well-known person to engage in this kind of activity on their server, and the streamer had had enough of how many times he had been bothered personally and for his guild, and just wanted this guy gone. A heated gamer moment, you can say. I can think of another rather larger YouTuber who had one of those, and he's still doing fine as far as I know. Then again, this checks out. Remember the whole advertise versus Asmongold thing? A guy who more or less made it their mission to make the game unplayable for the streamer, who sat through 2 to 3 hours of mind control caps, hard CC and mind controls in and back out of Blackrock Mountain like you're watching Tom and Jerry or something. He got the abuser banned on Twitch for harassment, not on World of Warcraft. Peo more or less has a dedicated team of stream snipers whenever he's logged into a character in the open world for a short period of time. That's the message we're getting from Blizzard. If you choose a PvP server, you cannot be griefed. It's just PvP on a PvP server. I mean, there's the whole other thing about whether Blizzard should make efforts to discourage stream sniping. Other games do this, you know, and I expect that Blizzard actually would, given how the code of conduct reads for PvE servers. This is a page on griefing in World of Warcraft. Blizzard is not against griefing behavior when there is a player versus player remedy. If you can get together a group of allies and trounce the offending party or simply kill all the mobs quickly, the problem is solved. But when the griever is impossible to attack, is not set to PvP, or is as the same faction as his targets, there is no such PvP remedy. Now, this isn't from an official source, but I think it's very interesting. Just read this again with me. But when the griever is impossible to attack, there is no such PvP remedy. Is dispelling PvP? Technically, yes. If you're running about with some of the boys in Felwood on reset day looking for PvP and you get someone's buffs, fine. If you stand out in Bloodvenom Post or Talon Branch Glade waiting for players to land and you get their buffs, there's probably a bit more they could have done to keep themselves safe. If you spend time waiting for people to Hearthstone in Stormwind and dispelling them, or by the mailbox in the centre of Orgrimmar, and then resurrecting and dispelling somebody, is that okay too? How about if you level an alt to the level where they get their Dispel ability, then purposefully camp Blackrock Mountain on reset day with the sole intention of resurrecting and spamming Purge or Dispel? Is that PvP too? Because by the time you press resurrect and hit Dispel, even on a level 20 or so character against a 60, the player who you are targeting does not have a chance to defend themselves before you have acted. There is no PvP recourse or remedy to avoid being dispelled in these circumstances. It becomes entirely down to luck. Does that dispel hit your Songflower, or does it just hit Prayer Fortitude or some other trash buff? Personally, I've been dispelled once. I remember it because I was so surprised somebody would actually do it. It was in Stormwind and I'd just done a Diamond tribute run on my Paladin for gear and was raiding the same evening, so I thought, why not run back through and get the buffs? And I was just hanging about by the fountain when a shaman anks and dispels my tribute buffs, and it was more of just a what on earth happened moment for me rather than anything else. And I saw the same person resurrect and purge multiple people throughout the same evening. On the main though, I've never been dispelled, well, not yet anyway. But do you not want to get dispelled either? There's probably a lot more you can do to reduce the chance it happens. Ask players when you're running through tribute to give you trash debuffs that can protect your will buffs. Whenever I'm doing a DMT, everybody I run past gets water breathing and detect invisibility. Both of these are magic effects. Help your fellow players out. Next time Darkmoon Fair's in town, give an alt some gold and park them by the scroll vendor. Each one of these is a magic buff. They're very cheap and give you plenty of extra slots to hide your more valuable world buffs. They are in a limited buyout system, so just log occasionally and buy them out. Don't have an ability to scout like Eagle Eye or Eye of Kilrog? Buy or make elixirs of dream vision. These are dirt cheap to make and give anybody the chance to check out an area ahead. The potion itself doesn't even have a cooldown on being used or share a cooldown with any other potion. It's actually really underrated. Classic PvP is centered heavily around consumables. Keeping yourself safe for world buffs is no different. Bring along a Skull of Impending Doom to stop hard CC in case a group appears. Nifty Stopwatch gives any class a sprint-like ability. And if you care about well buffs, you're probably an engineer, right? Bring a Goblin Rocket Helm to CC people, a Gnomish Cloaking Device for another invisibility. Invisibility pots are cheap and can keep you out of sight. You can even invis pot then hearth, though the pot will be cancelled once the hearth is completed. In fact, Cloaking Device and Invisibility pot plus Nifty Stopwatch can get you from the ramp all the way to inside Blackwing Lair whilst being completely untargetable on any single class. Oh, and if you play Warrior, you're pretty much the main target for Dispels all of the time, especially if you go running about with Thunder Fury on. That big orange zappy stick puts a big target on your head saying, "Dispel me, I'm the main tank." Unequip it. Reason Warriors are the main targets is because, well, if you dispel a tank, the threat's going to be worse overall. It kind of is a trickle-down effect that affects most of the raid. The thing about this is you can do all of this, you can be super careful, and then a level 20 reses and get your buffs by pure luck, and that's what I take issue with. Because I have no PvP recourse. I cannot defend myself against this attack. This isn't me getting ganked where I can call people into the zone, or somebody camping me, or killing flight masters or quest NPCs. With enough people you can stop all of this from happening. There is no amount of player input that can stop a low level from resurrecting and casting Dispel Magic or Purge, unless we are all expected to pretty much invisibility pot off cooldown whenever we're going to raid. I mean, if you want PvP on a PvP server, surely the best way is to actually outright kill the person? This will affect them way more than any Dispel tactics ever would. You remember Phase 2 going into Blackrock Mountain? This was probably the only thing I ever liked about Phase 2, because BRM was an absolute war zone on raid days. I have a lot of good memories of us wiping guilds and us getting wiped as well, and to be honest, if your whole guild goes in and gets wiped, it's kind of whatever. Just say, oh well, unlucky boys, looks like we're doing a no buff run this week. Instead of Tommy gets unlucky because some shaman purged him one time and he lost 5% crit and 200 attack power. You just have to say to him, oh well, bad luck I guess, see if you can do better next week. What do I reckon then? For real, before we got people resurrecting and dispelling, I didn't really care that much because there was a lot more counterplay that I had as a player. Now it's not so much the case. I think world buffs may be due for a change. I have a few ideas, the simplest of which is to make all world buffs physical effects. Many people have echoed this sentiment as well, and it would cause dispelling method to be gone overnight like that. I did a video on world buffs a bit ago as well and suggested that too then if people really took that much issue. The second idea I had when I was trying to brainstorm things that you could do, and I feel like this is somewhat in the spirit of Classic, is to extend the use of the honorless target debuff in some way to stop PvP interaction with other players during its duration. The current idea behind it is to discourage players from killing people who have a reduced chance to defend themselves, such as when they land at a flight path or they complete a Hearthstone. I would argue that players have a reduced chance to defend themselves following others resurrecting. Then again, this has some pretty massive side effects to other legitimate, dishonorable PvP interactions like ganking and camping and so on. Also, people would basically have 30 seconds to escape after resurrecting. It's probably too abusable in various ways. I just wanted to throw another idea out there. And even if that happened, people would no doubt just still be as active dispelling. They'd just find other ways to do it on their mains rather than on alts. Anyways, let me know what you think and whether you would like to see a change at all. I think it's an interesting topic, so you can hit me up below. As always, thank you so much for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one again very soon. If you like what you see, give the video a like and subscribe, as there'll be plenty more to come. Take care guys, and I'll see you all in the next one.